Welcome to another episode of the AI-driven Swebbcast. The source content is all Swebb, but the interpretation and presentation is all AI.
All right, so you know how this works, right? You send us stuff you're interested in, and we
kind of deep.
Yeah, we do a deep dive into it for you. You pull out all the good stuff, so you don't have to.
That's right.
And today is pretty fascinating stuff, I think. I mean, I was already pretty interested in it just from the outline.
Oh yeah, it's good.
This is the teaching notes from Swebb. Stephen Webb,
right?
Who's a multi-site strategist and church trainer.
Mm-hmm.
And these were given to 300 volunteers.
Wow.
At a church in Boston.
Okay.
As they were getting ready to launch their first ever multi-site location.
Yeah, so you're listening to this and you get to like be a fly on the wall for this training that he gave to these 300 people getting ready to launch this new thing. And our mission.
Yeah. What was the core message here?
Exactly.
What was he trying to get across?
What did he want to make sure that these people understood as they were going into this thing?
Yeah, and right out of the gate, he uses a phrase that kind of grabbed my attention.
Okay.
The pain of the pioneer. Interesting.
And, you think of a pioneer and you think...
Exciting.
Yeah, something exciting, adventurous, romantic maybe.
House on the Prairie.
Yeah, old West Gold Rush kind of stuff. And and he even jokes, he's like, I romanticize the era until I ask Alexa to set my bedtime, and he calls this the hindsight romance.
That's funny. Yeah, we think back and we think, oh, how romantic it would have been to do that. But then we forget about all the
realities. Yeah,
the realities of outhouses. And...
Right, yeah. And I think he's drawing a parallel here to faith too, right?
I think so too.
We all, many of us have a real strong God did faith.
Oh, yeah.
You think of all the times God's come through for you in the past, the healings, the provisions, the answered prayers.
Yeah.
But are we carrying that same level of expectation and confidence into what we hope God will do?
Yes, the God will faith.
That God will faith, right. Like not just believing in God.
Right.
But believing God.
Yes.
For what's coming next. And I think that is the key mindset for pioneering something new.
And he doesn't mince words about this. He's like, pioneering is initially
painful.
He
says it straight out.
Yeah, he's like, I got to say the inconvenient part out loud because I've seen too many churches launch with all this excitement and energy and then they hit a wall and decline because they weren't ready for the grit and the effort that reality demanded. It's
not all hype.
Yeah.
You gotta count the cost.
Right. And he even quotes some pretty challenging words from Jesus here.
Okay.
Son of man has nowhere to lay his head.
Yeah.
Let the dead bury their own dead.
Whoa, okay.
Sell your possessions and give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven, then come follow me.
Wow,
You give them something to eat.
Yeah, those are...
It's not...
Yeah, that's not a prosperity gospel.
Not comfortable or easy, right, to follow Jesus.
That's right.
And I think by extension to...
venture into new territory.
Right, yeah, to do something new for the church.
Yeah.
Okay, so from this understanding of the inherent challenge, right, he lays out what he calls the 6 pain points of the pioneer.
Okay, the 6 pain points. So this is what you're going to run into.
This is what these volunteers...
As you're doing this new thing.
Yeah, we're going to face... So let's look at the first one. Going in blind. Embrace the perhaps.
Doing it blind. Okay, so I'm already feeling this one.
Yeah.
Just in life in general, I think.
Yeah, and I think this is like...
You just don't have a perfect map.
Yeah, you don't have all the answers. Stepping into uncertainty, and that can be really unsettling.
And I think he contrasts certainty with faith.
Right.
And then control...
With the cost.
The cost of pioneering.
Yeah.
You just can't control everything when you're stepping into the unknown.
So what's his answer? Like, how do you deal with that discomfort of the unknown?
Well, he really points to trust.
Okay.
Like trusting that God actively works within uncertainty. And he even uses this example from 1 Samuel 14.6, where Jonathan says to his armor bearer,
okay,
perhaps the Lord will act in our behalf. Perhaps that God will come through.
Yeah.
And provide. And he uses another analogy, which I think is really helpful.
I like this one.
He talks about the difference between planting a church, which is a term we use all the time,
right,
and the patience of a farmer.
Right.
Like the farmer sows a seed, they don't know if it's going to rain.
Yeah.
They don't know if it's going to grow.
Right.
They just have faith.
Right.
That it will.
That God will provide what's needed.
Yeah. And I think we need that same hopeful expectation when we're pioneering something new.
And it's not just about, passively waiting to see what happens. It's about being adaptable.
Yeah, expect surprises.
Yeah,
he says don't resist them or get thrown off course.
Right.
Pivot with purpose.
And he has a really direct message for the volunteers here.
Okay, what is it?
Every role matters in building this campus.
Okay, your presence is the strategy. Be flexible. Keep showing up and trust the process.
I love that so much.
And then he actually challenges them.
Oh, yeah. How?
Go to the staff and say, put me where you need me. I'll make it work.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I'm here to serve.
Put me in coach.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome.
Okay, so that's going in blind.
Yep.
Embrace the perhaps.
Okay, that's pain point number 1.
Pain point number 2, limited resources, make what you have work.
Oh, this is huge. This applies to everything, not just church planting.
Right. And I think the pain here is not having everything you wish you had, right? The money, the volunteers, the space, all that stuff.
We've all felt that, I think, at some point.
So what's the answer?
Focus on having what you need for what God is asking you to do today.
Just for today.
Yeah.
Okay, and I think he brings up Moses here.
He does. So God says to Moses, what's that in your hand?
Right.
It's just this ordinary shepherd's staff.
Yeah.
But God used it.
To do extraordinary things.
Right. And I think the point is that God often works through what we already have. What's common, what's readily available.
And he even says that scarcity can fuel creativity.
Oh, okay.
Because you have to find unconventional solutions.
Yeah, you get creative.
You can't just throw money at a problem.
Right.
You got to figure it out.
Right. And I love this line. You never need more stuff. You just need more boldness and discipline to work what you have.
That's so good.
Right.
Yes.
Like we get so focused on what we're lacking that we forget
what we have.
Yeah, to maximize what we do have.
And that's so true.
And he reminds us that God provides along the journey, right? Just like the manna in the wilderness.
Every day what you need for that day.
Yeah.
Not a huge, overwhelming amount all at once.
Right. And I love that he pulls in a quote from the show 1883 here.
I love 1883.
He says, the further you get from civilization, the less valuable pretty things become.
I love that.
And I think it's about like, you know how we can get so focused on convenience and comfort and material things, but those aren't essential
No, they're not.
to the core mission.
Yeah.
So for those who are thinking we just don't have enough people to do this.
What does he say?
He says, you may feel like we don't have enough people, but pioneers become enough.
I love that so much.
Right. It's about like,
You rise to the occasion.
yeah, the act of doing this shapes you
That's right.
into the people you need to be.
Love that. And then gives a very specific challenge.
Oh, yeah.
What's the challenge?
Some of you need to produce what you're complaining about not having.
Oh, I love that.
You need joy, rejoice. You need encouragement, encourage. You need a friend, be one. You need money, give some.
Man, that is so practical.
Yeah.
So good.
Okay, pain point number 3, always moving, keep pushing forward.
Oh, this is so important.
I think this speaks to the sustained effort that's needed
Yeah.
in any pioneering endeavor.
It's not a sprint.
Yeah.
It's a marathon.
Right, and he contrasts settlers with pioneers,
Oh, yeah.
right? Like settlers establish roots, they settle down, but pioneers got to keep moving.
All right, keep pushing forward.
Yeah, and he even compares it to like being on the trail. You know, you got to keep moving or you become vulnerable.
Right, the dangers are all around you.
So what's the key takeaway here?
I think it's developing what he calls an always building mindset.
Always building.
Yeah.
Okay.
Celebrate the small wins,
Right.
but don't treat them as finish lines.
Yeah, keep growing.
Yeah, and moving doesn't just mean being busy.
Right.
It means getting better.
And this is where he brings up the analogy about aging.
Okay, tell me about this.
He's like, as we get older, we might gain more money, but what about our physical health?
Yeah.
Or we might gain wisdom through experience, but what about our self-discipline?
Right, are we growing holistically?
Right. And I think it's about making sure that the growth is like well-rounded,
I love that.
not just in one area. And so for the volunteers, he says, your role today might shift tomorrow. The church is always growing.
Yeah.
And that means leaders must be willing to stretch.
And adapt.
Right. Yeah.
And be flexible.
And what's the challenge?
Tell this staff make me better.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm here to grow. I'm here to learn.
Invest in me.
Yeah.
Want to be stretched.
Yeah, make me better.
Okay. Pain point number 4.
Okay, what do we got?
Work is the reward.
Interesting.
Find joy in the building.
Okay, so what's the pain here?
I think the pain is a lack of applause. You know, you're not going to get public recognition
Oh, yeah.
for all the effort you're putting in.
Yeah, for all the behind-the-scenes stuff, the
Yeah.
day-to-day grind.
Yeah, and he quotes Luke 17:10 here.
Okay.
You know, where Jesus talks about being unworthy servants.
We've just done our duty.
Right.
Nothing special.
And I think it's about like,
Humility.
Yeah.
And focusing on the work itself. Yes, and he gives some really cool examples of
what does he call them?
4 pioneers no one knows.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about them.
Okay, so he talks about Ajay Bhatt, who like spearheaded the USB.
Okay.
Jack Kilby, and Robert Noyce, who like co-invented the microchip.
Wow.
Josephine Cochrane, who invented the dishwasher.
What?
And Norman Joseph Woodland and Bernard Silver, who developed the barcode.
I use barcodes every day.
Right.
That's incredible.
And we don't even know their names,
Yeah.
but their work has shaped our world.
That's so powerful.
And I think the point is that
You don't need fame.
yeah.
You don't need recognition
Right.
to do something significant.
Right. And that's kind of how he encourages the volunteers to reframe this.
Okay.
Just like redefine your understanding of success.
Not about applause.
Yeah.
Not about recognition.
Right. It's about the impact you're making.
How about doing the work?
Yeah.
And he says responsibility is a privilege.
Yeah.
Ownership is a privilege.
Right.
If you're being asked.
You're already being rewarded. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. And then the challenge here.
Right.
Some of you need to tell the staff, give me something that overwhelms me.
That's a great challenge.
Yeah, like step ups.
Yeah.
Take on the hard stuff.
Don't shy away from it.
Yeah.
Embrace it.
Yeah. Okay, pain point number 5, not seeing the benefits build for those who come next.
Okay. That's hard though.
Yeah.
To work hard and then not.
Yeah, and the pain is like you're struggling while others enjoy the future benefits
Right.
of your work.
Yeah.
And he counters this by reminding the volunteers that they're benefiting from the sacrifices of those who came before them.
Oh, that's a good point.
Right, like the building,
Yeah.
the prayers.
The chairs we're sitting on.
Right, even the chairs.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, pioneers, they're not looking for credit.
They just want to see movement.
Yeah.
They want to see things happen.
And then he asks this really profound question.
What is it?
Are you okay with what you're building not growing until you're gone?
Right.
That is a big question
Like, are you okay with laying the foundation?
that someone else will build on.
Yeah.
Maybe after you're gone.
Right. And he even brings up, like, you know, the church exploded after Jesus
Yeah.
was gone, right?
After his earthly ministry.
Right. Okay, so that's pain point number 5. And then the final pain point
Okay.
is alone find strength in the few.
Yeah.
And the pain here, I think, is that feeling of loneliness
Yeah.
that can come with doing something new.
Especially when you're in that first wave.
Yeah.
The first group.
Right.
The smallest group.
And he gives the examples of like Lewis and Clark, the Pilgrims.
Christopher Columbus.
Yeah.
Small groups of people.
Right.
Doing huge things.
So what's the answer?
He points to Jesus starting with just 12 disciples.
Right.
He's like, small beginnings don't mean small impact.
Right.
And he says that pioneers attract pioneers.
Okay.
So you start to build community.
Yeah.
And then he talks about Caleb, who at 85 years old still wanted to take new ground.
Still had that vision.
He was still fired up.
Yeah. And he says to the volunteers, you are not alone.
Love that.
The people beside you are your tribe.
Yeah.
You're building something rare, and the bonds you form now
Yeah.
will last.
Way beyond the launch.
Yeah. And the challenge for this one.
Okay, hit me.
Some of you want to hide in a crowd.
Oh.
But you need to break out and lead from the front.
Lead from the front. Love that.
Okay, so after all that, after he lays out all these pain points, he ends his teaching with what he calls the final charge.
The final charge.
And it's a story.
Okay, I love stories.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's the story behind the hymn, I Have Decided to Follow Jesus.
I love that hymn.
Yeah, so this is mid-1800s India.
Okay.
Welsh missionary had led this Garrow family to Christianity, and the village chief was not having it.
Not happy about this.
No. So he demands that the father renounce his faith.
Bro.
And when he refuses, they bring out his children and they kill them one by one in front of him.
Oh, my goodness.
And each time they're like, renounce your faith. And he's like,
nope.
Though none go with me still, I will follow.
Oh.
And then they kill his wife.
Oh, my goodness.
And they give him one last chance.
And what does he say?
He says, the world behind me, the cross before me, no turning back.
Wow.
And then they kill him too.
Oh, man.
But the story doesn't end there.
It doesn't.
No, the village chief, he was so moved.
Yeah.
By this guy's faith.
I mean, how could you not be?
Right, by this inexplicable hope in the face of like unthinkable loss.
Yeah.
That he himself came to believe in Christ.
Wow.
And today, over 95% of the Garrow people in that region are Christians.
That's incredible.
And over 75% of that whole area of India.
Wow.
Over 2.1 million people.
So many people.
All from the faith of this one missionary and this one unnamed believer.
And his family.
Yeah, it's pretty powerful. Yeah. And Swebb connects this back to the volunteers. It's like the power of a pioneer outweighs the pain.
It's worth it.
Yeah, and he quotes 2 Corinthians 4.17.
Okay, what's that one?
For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all.
Wow, that puts it in perspective.
Yeah, and then he ends with this thought.
Okay.
Live your life and build the church in a way that will have countless people praising Jesus long after you're gone. Someone did that for you. It's your turn.
Wow, that's so good.
So that's the message to those 300 volunteers.
Powerful.
In Boston, getting ready to launch this new thing.
Yeah. What would you say is the big takeaway for us listening?
I think he's giving a really realistic but also inspiring call to action, right? Like embrace the difficulty of pioneering, but have faith.
Yeah.
Be resilient.
And focus on the long term.
Yeah, like it's going to be hard.
Are you going to do something with what you just heard? Or are you just trying to be entertained? Share this episode, then connect with Swebb. Bring him to your headquarters or visit him in Austin, Texas. Swebb is a productive disruptor for leaders and teams in churches and marketplace organizations. His goal is to make you better first, make you a friend later. Swebb serves leaders and executive teams around the world, primarily focused on helping organizations maximize what they say they want to do. He drives you to execute on your expectations, even if it hurts your ego. He's not here to please everyone, nor does he seek validation. But if you're serious about elevating your leadership and team performance, you'll know where to find him. Connect with Swebb at swebb.fyi or on Instagram at swebbfyi. You doing all you said you'd do, that's what the church and the world needs.